The invoice that shattered the illusion was never meant to surface. It was supposed to stay buried in a quiet Paris filing cabinet, stamped, signed, archived, forgotten. But someone opened the drawer and the fantasy exploded.
This is Meghan Markle's sickest stunt yet.
I mean, other than looking like a toilet roll, Meghan Markle is contributing absolutely nothing.
The whisper started in a hotel corridor, the kind lined with gold trim and secrets too expensive to repeat out loud. A Paris insider leaned in and murmured that documents from Meghan Markle's Fashion Week stay had slipped into the wrong hands. Thousands of euros, penthouse charges, designer fittings, private security sweeping hallways before she even stepped out of the elevator. And here's the detail that turned curiosity into chaos. The name on the payment authorization wasn't hers. At first, it looked harmless. Another glamorous celebrity expense story, another luxury headline for tabloids to feast on. But as reporters began lining up the numbers, something felt off. The charges didn't match the narrative. The timeline bent. The signatures contradicted each other. Balenciaga, the brand she was rumored to represent, denied sponsoring her. Firmly, immediately, no hesitation. Her team, silence. Total silence. And that silence rang louder than any press statement ever could, because the invoices didn't just show payments. They showed patterns. A different payer, a company, a man, a trail stretching far beyond Paris and deep into Hollywood's inner circles. Behind closed doors, insiders claimed the fallout was brutal. Meghan reportedly in tears. Prince Harry blindsided, furious, not just about the money, but about the optics, about control, about trust. And hovering over it all was the question no one could dodge. If Meghan didn't pay for that suite, who did? Every line item felt like a breadcrumb. Every signature felt deliberate. It wasn't just a quiet sponsor. It was something more calculated. And when the truth began leaking, it didn't just end a trip. It detonated an image.
Maybe Harry's no use to Meghan anymore. Maybe the divorce rumors are actually true.
Early October to 2025. Avenue Montaigne lit up with flashing cameras as Meghan stepped out of a black SUV wrapped in couture and confidence. This was her reset, her return, a carefully orchestrated Fashion Week comeback built on elegance and rebirth. But behind that polished smile, another story was already unraveling. Inside the hotel, under mounting media pressure, a staff accountant reportedly shared scanned invoices with a French entertainment journalist. Within hours, whispers turned into proof. The receipts didn't just show numbers, they showed contradictions. One booking listed under a luxury brand, another under a Los Angeles corporation no one could clearly trace. Dates didn't line up. Authorization codes clashed. And when Balenciaga was contacted again, the response was swift and final. They didn't sponsor her. And then came the silence. The kind of silence that cracks illusions wide open.
Meghan Markle is always attempting to, shall we say, build relationships with very, very, very rich men.
Blurry screenshots of invoices flooded French media. Tabloids went feral. Online sleuth zoomed into every detail. Penthouse suite charges, a 3,200 stylist retainer, late night room service, private transport. They weren't just reading receipts anymore. They were building a case. For the first time since stepping away from royal life, Meghan lost control of the narrative. Headlines multiplied like wildfire. Who paid? Who approved? Who leaked? Paris Fashion Week flipped overnight from glamour to scandal. And the answers weren't on the red carpet. They were buried in paperwork. Weeks before Fashion Week, her return had been choreographed down to the millimeter. Every outfit curated. Every appearance calculated. The Plaza Athene stay wasn't just accommodation, it was symbolism, reinvention, power.
Harry just can't give her anything else anymore. He served his purpose. His purpose is over. So for her, it's time to move on.
Her team framed the trip as empowerment, a global tastemaker reclaiming her image. Fashion editors praised her as regal yet reborn. Publicists pushed phrases like modern grace and humanitarian glamour. Social media lit up. Entertainment outlets hyped a rumored Balenciaga partnership as proof she was back in fashion's elite circle. For a moment, the illusion held. But behind the scenes, NDAs were signed. Photographers were directed. Calls were off-limits topics. And inside the industry, editors whispered quietly that no brand had officially confirmed hosting her. The press briefings didn't line up. And then one document slipped. That single booking line shattered everything because it didn't match the fantasy she built. It started with an anonymous email attachment sent to a European journalist. Inside, scanned hotel invoices stamped with digital time codes. What looked routine at first turned unsettling fast. The guest information didn't match her public story. The payment authorization pointed to a third party, not her foundation, not her media media office. Each page contradicted the last. Private transportation, designer fittings, midnight services, initials no one recognized, and one handwritten note that became the spark, confirmed by sponsor. Sponsor, the word that lit the fuse. Within hours, bloggers dissected every line like evidence in a courtroom. What once looked effortless now looked carefully financed from the shadows. Her publicist's number reportedly went dead. Scheduled appearances quietly disappeared. Statements froze. And then came the security debate. One question dominated every panel and comment section. If she can walk openly in Paris crowds with visible security and luxury funding, why is taxpayer-funded protection such a heated issue elsewhere? The receipts became more than paperwork. They became leverage. Speculation erupted. Secret sponsors, hidden investors, favors exchanged behind velvet curtains. And just when it seemed the mystery couldn't deepen, another name surfaced. Not publicly, not fully, just initials. Journalists traced digital signatures and payment processors until a pattern emerged. The same electronic authorization linked to past media investments tied back to a wealthy Los Angeles figure from Meghan's pre-royal social orbit. They called him Mr. X. Fragments of correspondence suggested he personally facilitated payments through a company account to shield his identity. And that changed everything. Because now this wasn't just about money. It was about motive. Why fund her stay? Loyalty? Influence? Old connections resurfacing? When the first article naming Mr. X went live, insiders described tension so thick it felt suffocating. Meghan reportedly shaken, scrambling to find who exposed the link she believed was safely buried. Prince Harry, according to those close to him, was blindsided, convinced everything had been handled cleanly. Approved, transparent. Now doubt crept in, not just about Paris, about trust, about what else he might not know. What began as a glamorous weekend had morphed into an emotional battlefield built on invoices, whispers, and reputations traded like currency. And the storm was just getting started. By the time the Mr. X revelation hit full circulation, the internet wasn't asking politely anymore. It was demanding answers. And every second that passed without one made the silence look heavier, darker, more deliberate. Overnight, hashtags exploded. Opinion panels dissected timelines. Archived press releases began disappearing. Interviews quietly vanished from syndication as if someone had hit a silent delete button behind the curtain. Observers noticed the scrubbing immediately. The internet never forgets, but it always notices when something is erased. Inside the camp, insiders described chaos, emergency calls, late-night strategy sessions. Legal teams looped in. Every possible response rehearsed like a courtroom drama. Deny? Clarify? Stay silent? Each choice carried a cost. Silence looked like guilt. Denial risked contradiction. Clarification could open doors better left sealed. The problem wasn't just the invoices anymore. It was the pattern. Anonymous sources began whispering that Harry didn't hear about Mr. X from Meghan first. He saw it the way the rest of the world did, splashed across headlines. That detail alone fueled a different kind of speculation. Not about money, about communication, about fractures. Cameras caught them at a charity event days later. Polite smiles, measured distance. No obvious confrontation, but something felt rehearsed. The warmth once displayed so effortlessly now looked carefully rationed. Body language analysts dissected every glance like it was evidence. Elite invitations began to evaporate quietly. Fashion insiders hesitated. Collaborations stalled. Industry executives, always cautious about reputational risk, started recalculating. Fascination slowly shifted into fatigue. Once a brand feels unstable, it becomes expensive to attach yourself to it. Meanwhile, Meghan reportedly felt the emotional toll instantly. Private tears, exhaustion, the kind of fear that hits when control slips from your hands and you realize the narrative is moving without you. Friends allegedly urged her to lay low, let the noise burn itself out, but the fire was spreading too fast. And here's where the conversation shifted from scandal to something deeper. Analysts began noticing that Paris didn't feel isolated. It felt familiar, a grand entrance, loud praise, strategic reinvention. Then contradiction, exposure, retreat, reset, different city, different cast of players, same rhythm. Critics called it calculated. Supporters called it survival in a hostile media ecosystem. Some insiders suggested controversy was never entirely accidental, that outrage and admiration were both forms of currency, keeping her name fixed in global conversation. Others insisted she was simply unlucky, constantly targeted, punished for defying systems that prefer compliance. But the receipts didn't care about narratives, they existed. And the digital trail told its own story. Investigative bloggers began mapping out the electronic signature tied to Mr. X. The same signature appeared in older media investment filings. Quiet partnerships, Funding vehicles routed through corporate shells. Nothing illegal on its face, but layered enough to raise eyebrows. Why would someone from her past bankroll of Fashion Week come back only to remain invisible? Influence, access, loyalty, or something transactional that hasn't yet surfaced? The speculation alone became oxygen for the scandal. Panels debated whether this was media manipulation or media miscalculation. Was she orchestrating mystique? Or had she overestimated her ability to keep sponsors discreet in an era where nothing stays hidden? Inside Hollywood, perception is power, and perception had shifted. The Paris photos, once triumphant, now look different under scrutiny. The couture seemed heavier, the smiles more deliberate. Every image carried the subtext of the question that wouldn't die: who paid? And then came another layer: security. Commentators replayed footage of her moving through Paris crowds, visible security presence, controlled access. Meanwhile, Harry's ongoing legal battles over protection funding were already public knowledge. The juxtaposition was too tempting for critics to ignore. They framed it as contradiction, as hypocrisy, as optics gone wrong. Even if the realities were more complex, perception doesn't wait for nuance. Behind the scenes, elite doors began closing with polite subtlety. No dramatic blacklisting, just quieter phone lines, slower replies. Partnerships reconsidered. In celebrity ecosystems, distance can be more devastating than open rejection. Still, Meghan didn't vanish entirely. There were reports of strategy pivots, a shift toward humanitarian branding again, more controlled appearances, fewer fashion headlines, a recalibration of tone, the machinery of reinvention turning once more. Because here's the uncomfortable truth about Martin fame: scandal doesn't always destroy you. Sometimes it embeds you deeper into the public psyche. Controversy keeps attention alive, and attention is currency, but currency fluctuates. The Paris incident left a mark, not because of luxury spending, that's routine in celebrity culture, not because of rumored sponsorships, that's common too. It left a mark because it exposed contradiction in a story built on transparency and independence. If Mr. X existed as described, if funding was facilitated quietly, if communication within the marriage truly faltered, those are fractures harder to polish over with couture. And yet, as the storm slowly lost velocity, something else became clear. The public memory is short, but the internet archive is long. Every invoice screenshot still floats somewhere, every headline preserved, every debate clipped and reposted. Even if the official version stabilizes, the questions remain searchable. Who leaked the invoices? Was it a hotel insider, a disgruntled associate, a strategic rival, or someone closer than anyone expects? Why would a wealthy Los Angeles figure risk exposure to fund a comeback moment? Was it loyalty from an old chapter, an investment in influence, or leverage disguised as generosity? And perhaps the most unsettling question of all: how many other narratives in modern celebrity culture are similarly constructed, financed, curated behind velvet ropes while the public consumes the polished version? Paris became more than a trip. It became a symbol that in the empire of image, every move has a receipt, every reinvention has a cost, and every illusion, no matter how carefully choreographed, can crack when paperwork slips through the wrong hands. By the time the headlines slowed and the hashtags lost momentum, the damage wasn't loud anymore. It was subtle, embedded, a shift in perception that doesn't scream but lingers. Harry and Meghan still appeared together, still issued statements, still pursued projects, but something intangible had shifted in how they were discussed, not just as a couple navigating fame, but as a brand navigating credibility. Was this just another scandal destined to fade into the background noise of celebrity culture? Or was it proof that the pattern itself is the story? Reinvention, exposure, retreat, return. If it's choreography, it's risky. If it's chaos, it's expensive. Either way, Paris proved one thing: control in the digital age is fragile. And once the narrative escapes your hands, it belongs to everyone. So the question isn't just who paid for Paris, it's how much truth is negotiable when image becomes currency. And as long as receipts exist, literal or metaphorical, the illusion will always be one leak away from collapse. Leak away from collapse. Leak away from collapse. Leak away from collapse.